Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are back in Sweden, as you may be able to tell from the change in background. So I moved into my new place now, I've got a nice little spot to review, and over the next few videos you'll see the lighting levels change and stuff a little bit as I kind of figure out the settings that I need to make it the best in this room. But yes, I've got massive big windows over here to the side, so I'm just kind of dealing with a little bit of natural light. So that will take a little bit of time to figure out. But like I say, over the next few videos you'll be seeing a number of Swedish and Danish beers being reviewed. The Scottish and Irish ones that I've been reviewing for you will continue to publish in the morning, and the Swedish and Danish ones we're doing over the next little bit will publish in the evening. So a little bit of extra content for you, and I hope that you guys enjoy that actually. But yeah, for this review then, we are going to kick off with a Swedish beer, and these guys of course are a very well respected Swedish brewery. We've had a lot of nice beers from these guys in the past, and I think it's fair to say that this brewery are best known for their New England IPAs. So yeah, for this review then, we will head up to a little place called Nora, which is to the north of Örebro, which you'll find out to the west of Stockholm, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Apex Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Pelican Blood. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is yet another New England double IPA. So yeah, very curious to see what this one has in store for us. But this beer was released as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for December of 2021. So yeah, nice to return to Apex Brewing after what feels like a little while. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. So yeah, let's crack on then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Apex Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see me add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to very regularly at the moment because I am working my way through the Swedish stuff that I bought for this month. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Apex Brewing Company. So Apex Brewing Company, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Nora, which is to the north of Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and this company was founded back in 2017 by Daniel Gatchitz and Niklas Lundgren. So both of these guys are musicians, with Niklas having played in the band 59 Times the Pain, and Daniel played in The Voice of a Generation. I still need to listen to both of these bands, and I say that every time I review one of Apex Brewing's beers, and then I just always forget right after. So I really do need to do that actually. But Daniel and Niklas are responsible for the brewing operations, and there are a few others involved in the company as well. This is Leif Carlson, Ola Eriksson and Roger Hjelm, and they started off with a small 500 litre brew kit and 6 fermentation tanks, and they were selling their beers just in the local area before they got them into Systembolaget, and since they've gone in there, things have really taken off for Apex Brewing. But in 2018 they brewed around 35,000 litres of beer per year with about 25 different varieties, all of which were New England hazy IPAs. Like I said earlier, this is the style that this brewery is very well known for, and they brewed around 120,000 litres across 2019. I didn't manage to find a figure for 2020, but I think things took a little bit of a, they did expand, but I think things did go down a little bit with the whole COVID-19 pandemic. But they are still doing very, very well. They're expanding their sales abroad, and they are a fairly recognised brewery throughout Europe these days. But in the summer of 2021, they announced that they would move to a new premises in the Betorp district of Örebro, a little bit to the south, in the autumn. And I think the move over there is still kind of going ahead at the moment. They are still moving over to that facility. But this new brewery will see them upgrade their 500 litre brew kit to a 2,000 litre system, with several new tanks coming in to increase their fermentation capacity. And of course, that will mean that the Apex Brewing Company beers are distributed a little bit further afield. But as of December 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 90 different kinds of beer. As I mentioned earlier, pretty much, 95% of them are New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. You've got triples, doubles, singles, there's session IPAs in there as well. But every so often they will do a couple of different styles. I've had a lager beer from these guys, which I really enjoyed, and I saw on their Facebook that they have recently just done an Imperial Stout, which has been released in keg. So hopefully they'll do a can release of that at some point. I'd love to try an Imperial Stout from these guys. I'd also love to try a West Coast IPA, and a black IPA I think could be a very interesting proposition from Apex as well. But like I said, a very, very well respected brewery. They do very, very well within this kind of hazy IPA category, as I've said. So definitely one of the Swedish breweries that you want to check out if you get the chance. So that's everything I can really tell you about Apex Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, if you're a fan of hazy New England IPAs, these guys are one of a few Swedish breweries that you do want to check out. Actually, there's a very good standard of craft beer here in Sweden, as I've mentioned many a time. But let's get on and actually have a look at the beer itself then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty similar to what we've seen from Apex Brewing Company before. You always get an animal on the beers, and then you get this little kind of Illuminati type thing. So I think it is pretty nice, this one. There you can see the pelican eating somebody's hand. I've seen a video on YouTube of a pelican eating a pigeon in London. That was quite interesting. So yeah, but it says on the back here, music, people and beer, which is understandable considering the background that the guys at the brewery have. And there you can also see the ABC, Apex Brewing Company, of course. But it looks really nice, this one. I believe I paid 55 Swedish krona for this, so that translates to roughly about £5 sterling, somewhere in the region of €6. And I guess, probably about €5.50 in that case. It's about 10 Swedish kroner per euro. So we're probably talking somewhere in the region of like $6.50 American, just so that those of you watching across the world have a little bit of a price reference there. But it does look very, very nice, this one. 440ml can, this 8% New England Double IPA. Just to give you the exact specs of the beer, it says this one, the notes that I took from Untappd, because Untappd for some reason always has the hops and the malt bills in here. I think Apex actually update this themselves, but this one is hopped with Citra Incognito, Motueka, Galaxy and Columbus. We know all of these hops quite well. Citra, American hop, 14% alpha acid, lovely big mango flavours usually, and a big kind of lemony zesty quality. Motueka is a New Zealand hop, about 8% alpha acid, quite often gives you a lot of lime. Galaxy, Australian, big kind of passion fruity notes, but quite a bit of mango and pineapple as well, about 14% alpha acid if memory serves me correctly. And then Columbus is an interesting one, an American hop, usually used as a bittering hop, gives you a big kind of spicy floral aromaticity. But the interesting thing with the hop profile here is that they're using Incognito, and this is a new kind of hop gel goo type thing that they're using at the moment. It means that the flavours actually are extracted, and it means you use less energy in brewing and stuff like that. I need to read a little bit more into exactly what the Incognito technology is, but it's basically a new type of hop liquid from what I understand. So yeah, there's quite a few interesting hops in this one, but the malt base is Maris Otter Extra Pale, torrefied oats, and also chip malt. And we've had chip malt in these beers before, and it gives the beer quite a little bit of nice bread crusty character. But once again, it uses their favourite WLP 66 London Fog yeast. Apex Brewing love using these yeasts, of course. But those are the specs of the beer. Some interesting things going on. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm very curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. And it is nice to return to Apex Brewing after quite some time. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get it into the glass. So yeah. I'm not sure exactly when this beer would have been released through glass banking. This is one of the things with Apex Brewing Company. Their beers are often released through glass banking a bit earlier than they come through Systembolaget, but you will pay almost double the price for them. Actually, that's one of the things. So yeah, you'll pay nearer £100, maybe 90 or something like that, for these Apex beers through glass banking. But if you wait a little bit and get them in Systembolaget, you get them for about 55 or 60 or whatever. So yeah, up to you what you want to do. But I just get them in the Systembolaget releases, because quite often they brew a new batch from what I understand. But yeah, anyway, as you can see and as you would expect, this one has poured just as you would like from a New England IPA. Lovely, very bright yellow mango juice colour. I always love comparing the appearance of these New England IPAs to different fruit juices, because that's really just what they remind me of. But you can see it's got a lovely one finger frothy, I would say perfect white head there. So I'll just bring that up to the camera there to let you have a look at that. You can see it's absolutely beautiful actually. I can see on the camera that we need to sort out the light in here a little bit, because it is just a wee bit dark over on my right hand side over here. But yeah, this is a lovely, very bright yellow colour, this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use, 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put into the beer are also going to affect the colour a little bit. But when it comes to New England IPAs, quite often you don't need to care about that particular variable. But yeah, it certainly looks the part, this one, of a New England IPA. Now remember, the level of haze depends on the wheat content and the oat content of the beer, and also the yeast that you're using. And this is one of the soupier and gloopier. If I put the light through this is definitely one of the soupier and gloopier New England double IPAs that I've come across over the last little while. And if memory serves me correctly, this is one of the soupier and gloopier ones I've come across from Apex Brewing actually. So yeah, quite impressive, but not a lot of carbonation visible in this one, just 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there, but overall it looks pretty much as you'd expect. You can see this beer is pretty damn opaque actually, but yeah, certainly it looks the part, it does look the part. But yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. Nothing untoward about the appearance. So I think it's time to move on to the aroma then and just see how we go. So let's have a little look at this. Yeah, that smells very, very nice. Yeah, it's awesome. There's just something really distinctive about these Apex Brewing New England IPAs. I've always found that they just smell a little bit kind of farmhousey. They've just got a really distinctive kind of yeasty and malty character to them. Like I do think if I was handed a beer blind without knowing where it came from, I do think I could potentially guess that it was an Apex one. There's just something about they've always just got these slightly crackery, woody, bready, farmhousey type vibes to them. I like that when you can start to pick up trends between different breweries that you have, that you drink from quite regularly. But yeah, this one smells very, very nice. So as I've told you in previous reviews, when it comes to New England IPAs, for me, there's 6 different things you have to think about here. So they can have farmhousey, yeasty character, they can be rye leaning and grainy. These 2 characters are a little bit more common in ones that are actually from New England rather than European ones, but they can also be kind of wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and bready, or they can have a little bit of brown sugary sweetness to them. And quite often you will get a number of these characteristics. But like I say, the farmhousey and rye leaning New England IPAs are more common in New England itself, such as with Hill Farmstead, or the Alchemist Brewery would be a good example of the more kind of rye farmhousey ones actually. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But Apex always have a little bit of that kind of yeasty character to them, and you can smell that right away. But as a general overview, this one smells like a really rich, very juicy, quite floral New England IPA, this one. So it's very in keeping with what we've had from this brewery before. It's not surprising, but it's interesting to come back to this brewery over here compared to, say, Overtone back home in Scotland, because the beers really do have a different vibe about them, I think. But this smells absolutely lovely. So let's just break down that aroma for you a wee bit more. So malty backbone on this one then. You can definitely smell it has a wee bit of that kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of backbone to it, but there's a lot of lovely white bread in there, a lovely soft kind of white bread to the beer. Wee bit of bread crust for sure, which I really enjoy as well. So yeah, bit of Jacob's cream cracker, good bit of white bread and a little bit of bread crust in there. But you can also smell, you can also smell a bit of the creaminess from the oats in this beer actually. I think this one had flaked oats if I remember rightly. So yeah, it's got a lovely kind of flaked oaty character to it. Yeah, it's got a lovely, you can smell that kind of creaminess out of the oats in there, and it almost gives you a little bit of sweetness as well. When this beer is 8% ABV, it's not surprising that you're getting a good little bit of a kind of sweetness out of it. It's got a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing. So yeah, Jacob's cream cracker, good bit of a kind of fresh white bread, a little touch of bread crust in there, nice oaty creaminess, and also a bit of a Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy kind of thing. It does smell really nice, but as I say, it's got a bit of that distinctive Apex Brewing Company kind of just yeast, soft, fluffy bread. You can almost smell a little bit of the kind of flour off the fresh bread kind of thing. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, really nice malty, yeasty backbone in this one, I have to say. I'm sure we'll explore that more when we look at the flavour itself. But on the on the hoppy side of things then, the green component on this is absolutely lovely, and it must be that Incognito. I've had a couple of beers from Overtone that have had Incognito in them, and they smell quite different to this actually, but there's definitely a wee touch of earthiness to this beer, that's for sure, but not too prominent. It's got a massive big floral aromatic character to it though, and that makes sense. I mean, you've got Citra in here, you've got Motueka, you've got Galaxy, you've also got Columbus. When it's Columbus, I would have expected to be a little bit more spicy, but remember, your New England IPAs use late addition hopping and dry hopping, so you don't get the same kind of dankness, I think, in New England IPAs that you used to get in the West Coasters, because remember, the West Coasters also had early addition hopping, and that was what gave you a lot of the bitterness. So yeah, that's something you also have to bear in mind. But this has got a lovely big floral aromatic green component to it. There's some really nice bright kind of zesty grassy characters as well, and I think that's most likely to come from Citra in this case. The Citra is the one that will give you that big grassy zesty character. But yeah, big, nice, bright floral aromaticity to this one, bit of a kind of zesty grassiness in there, and just a wee touch of earthiness in the background. So that's your green component. Let's look at the fruity side of things. On the fruity side of the beer, if you know these hops, it is kind of what you'd expect. For me, there's a little bit of passion fruit in there. It's quite a mellow passion fruit, and that's going to come both from the Citra and from the Galaxy. There's a lot of juicy mango in there. Mango, I think, it really takes the forefront in this beer, if you like. It's the one that's kind of stepping out a little bit, and that's again going to come both from the Galaxy and from the Citra. There are a few other kind of tropical notes in there. I definitely get a wee bit of pineapple out of the beer for sure. Yeah, definitely a wee bit of pineapple in there, and for me, there is a fair bit of a kind of oily lime, and in the very front of the nose you do get a little bit of a lemony character. So the Motueka, of course, is going to give you that nice oily lime. There's also almost a wee touch of orange to this one as well, and Motueka can in a sense give you a little teeny bit of that orangey hint. But yeah, for me there's quite an oily limey character to this one. So a lot of mango, a lot of lime, bit of stronger passion fruit in there, and a wee touch of pineapple. But yeah, I'm going to just say this is a lovely, lovely smelling New England double, this one. So let's get the rest of it out and into the glass, and yeah, we're ready to taste this one then. So yeah, this is the Pelican Blood, a New England double IPA coming in at 8% ABV from Apex Brewing Company in Nora near Örebro here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers. Looking forward to this. Yeah, that's another absolutely solid beer from Apex. These guys really know what they're doing, absolutely. There's a reason these guys are very well respected, and having not had one of their beers for about 3 months, something like that. It is just quite nice. It is just quite nice to come back to one of these. So this is a nice way to kind of kick off my Swedish reviews again. And I have got some really good Swedish and Danish beers lined up for you over the next wee while, so stay tuned for those, definitely. But once again, a solid beer from Apex Brewing Company. And I'm going to say, just from first impression, this one strikes me as being a little bit more oily and slick in comparison to some of the other ones that I've had from Apex in the past. Actually, this one just really feels... The other ones always felt a little, from what I remember, and again, your palate can change a little bit, you know, when you're going between different countries. If you don't have something from a brewery from a while, you maybe just perceive it as different. Your palate is constantly evolving, I think. But this one really does feel a little bit more oily and slick and things compared to what I remember from Apex before. Their beers were always a little bit more kind of soft and smooth in a sense. So that's an interesting point. I wonder how much of that is due to the incognito, but yeah, interesting point that. But let's break down the flavour of this one then and describe it for you properly. Yeah, so let's look at the middle of the palate then. So straight away across the middle of your palate then, you do get a little bit of that. You can feel there's a wee bit of a kind of graininess and a sort of Jacob's cream cracker, you know, that goes right across the middle of your palate. So a wee bit, the Jacob's cream cracker forms the kind of backbone. On top of that, you get a kind of bread crusty quality, and that's actually, it actually does have a fair wee bit of grainy character to it, which is quite interesting. So a nice wee bit of a kind of grainy, yeah, just a nice little bit of that kind of grainy character in there, which I like. And on top of that, you've got a sort of soft, you do get a nice kind of soft white bready character as well. So yeah, the barley malt there, the Jacob's cream cracker backbone, bit of a kind of grainy bread crusty note, and as I say, the further you go into the aftertaste with it, the more that graininess comes out. Then you've got the sort of soft white bready note in there, and you can feel the sort of wheaty character is just kind of thickening that out a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Was it torrefied oats we have in this one? Yeah. It's interesting. Chit malt, from what I remember, is a special type of wheat, but yeah, you definitely get a bit of that kind of wheatiness out. But from what I remember, chit wheat was always quite grainy in a sense, so that's what you're really getting. You're getting a slightly stronger bread crust, and yeah. So the oaty character of this beer, for me, is quite interesting. The oats, one of the things you'll always notice about these New England IPAs is that the oats are the giveaway of how fresh they are. You know, the drier the oats feel, that tends to be be an indication of an older New England IPA. The oats are always a bit more creamy the fresher the beer is. But yeah, you can feel with this one, you've got a nice bit of a, down the middle line of your tongue, you've got a good little bit of creaminess from the oat, but as you go out toward the edge of your palate, you've got a little bit of a more kind of dry character to the oatiness, but it still gives you a lovely little sweetness. So yeah. So, yeah, on the, I think on top of that, you are getting a bit of sweetness there. In the dead centre of your palate, you've got a little circle there, and you can feel the base of it is that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. But if you go to the dead centre of your palate, you're getting the kind of concentration of the alcohol, and that's where you get like a straight up caramel out of this beer. There is a wee bit of that concentrated boozy caramel there, bit of Werther's Original underneath it. Then as you go out towards the extremities of your palate, it's got a nice little bit of, it does give you a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah, I really do like how this one goes together from the malty side of things. It still has the kind of softness and it has the softness and the kind of almost the yeasty character in this one is quite similar. So it really does feel like an Apex beer flavour wise, but the mouth feels different. That's what I'm really finding with this one, but we'll come back to that later. That's your middle third of your palate. Let's focus on the back third then. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of bready build up there and a wee bit more bread crust. So the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel The kind of Jacob's cream cracker is there. It's a little bit drier. The bread crusty note that I was talking about from the chip malt, that's also there, and the graininess is a wee bit more intense. Sitting on top of that, you have that nice kind of white bready character. It feels a little bit thicker. You do get a wee bit of bitiness from the chip malt as well, the chip wheat, so you can feel that on the back palate there too. And all of these layers are a bit thicker there, but sitting on top of that, you can get the yeasty character out of this one. So let's just focus on the yeasty part of the beer for a second. So yeah, yeasty part of the beer for me, again, it's got, you can feel that sort of thick dough, that kind of doughy, yeasty kind of thing coming out of this one, and it just works really nicely. It almost has a little touch of a kind of peppery thing to it on that concentrated doughy yeast, and again that just sits on top of that kind of wheaty bready layer I was talking about. But at the back of your palate you can feel the bready notes. The whole beer just feels a little bit thicker, the flavour feels a little bit taller, and as you come further forward it condenses down, and as you go into the middle third of your palate everything just sort of squashes together a little bit. So yeah, the way that goes together is really nice, and it gets a thumbs up from me. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it becomes quite floral actually, and you can feel the Columbus in this, that sort of spiciness of the Columbus hop, and the way that comes out actually makes me think that Columbus may have been an early addition hop in this one, because you can really feel that spiciness, and the green component of these hops always shows itself a little bit more when the beer, when they've been added into the beer as early addition hops. So you can feel that nice spiciness of the Columbus just getting more and more intense until you reach the front corners of the palate, round the front curve of the tongue. You get a little bit of that kind of lighter, grassy sort of thing to the beer, so you can feel a nice kind of zesty, bright, zesty character coming off. Bright, zesty, grassy character just round the front curve of the tongue there. So I really like how that goes together. Really enjoy that. So, on top of that, on the front third of your palate, you've got all the fruity characters coming out of this beer, and again, it matches really well. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of that bready build-up, and there a wee bit of bread crust in the base of that front third of your palate. It's a nice kind of soft white bready character in there, but I almost feel a little bit of the oatiness just creeping forward too. It's almost like a little bit of white bread and a little bit of smooth oat. Then on top of that you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So for me, the juicy fruity side of the beer, if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you definitely get a bit of an intense passion fruity note out of this. That's going to come from both the Galaxy and the Citra in this case. As you move further forward, it mellows out a little bit to give you a wee bit of a more juicy passion fruit, and then the mango comes out just further forward from that as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate. So yeah, that goes together very, very nicely for sure. But on top of that, you do get a little touch of pineapple out of this one, but no, it really, the passion fruit I think for me dominates on the tropical side of things. The mango is there, but yeah, it's the kind of more pungent passion fruit note that just lingers there actually. That's really interesting. Yeah. So I do like how that goes together, absolutely. Yeah, so the further you go into the aftertaste with it, and the more that you drink of it, you will start to get a wee bit of a juicy pineapple coming out of this one. And there are wee undertones of like apricot and stuff like this, some of those drier tropical notes. But yeah, strong passion fruit, mellows out a little bit, you get a big juicy mango, wee bit of pineapple in there. Yeah. And as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, you start to get more of the Motueka. The Motueka starts to come out a little bit more, and you get that nice big oily limey character that it gives you. And as you reach the kind of front tip of the palate, you'll get that big lemony, zesty character as well. So I mean, overall, that does work. It does work really well in that sense. So yeah, this beer, it's got quite a pungent tropical fruit note to it, but it's also got a big zesty lemon limey character to it as well. So the more oily lime is definitely the Motueka, of course, but then the kind of zesty lemony notes is more likely to come from the Citra than anything else. But yeah, it's a well balanced beer, this one. It's quite a zippy beer overall, I would say, but definitely a nice return to Apex after a couple of months. I have enjoyed this one for sure. Yeah. So I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour in this beer. Let's move on to the mouthfeel, because for me, this is the main difference between this one and the other beers I've had from Apex. So for me, this is definitely pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth, and as I've said, I find this beer quite slick and oily, but I couldn't tell you how much of that perception is due to the fact I haven't had one of these beers in about 2 months or so, something like that. But yeah, for me, this is definitely a bit more slick and oily compared to some of the other Apex ones we've had. In terms of IBUs, I think this one's maybe. I think it's either a standard 30, or it might be a little bit more at 40. As I said, you've got that spiciness from the Columbus that just linger in there in this beer, so that's in my mind too. I think this might be a 40 IBU beer, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is only 30. Remember, IBU is my weakest part of beer reviewing, so always take my IBU ratings with a pinch of salt, because I've had them completely wrong in the past. But yeah, I'd say about 40 IBUs. The malt base is nice and smooth. There's a little bit of sweetness to the beer. It does have an element of creaminess there in the malt base too, and yeah, it's got everything you want. So you do get a wee bit of booziness there, but really nice kind of fruity characteristics. This one, quite a strong tropical note, but it mellows out. You've got a juicy mango in there, and you've got a juicy lime, but you've also got a wee bit of a more pungent lemon zest as well. But yeah, a very, very nice beer, this one. So once again, a big thumbs up to Apex Brewing Company for this beer, actually. So yeah, I really like how this one goes together. This was the Pelican Blood Double IPA, 8% ABV, another New England Double IPA from Apex Brewing Company. My first review in my new room here in Sweden. So yeah, we'll just, as I say, I do apologise for the light levels in this one. I need to figure that out a little bit. But yeah, we will work on that over the next little while, and hopefully the light gets a wee bit better in the next reviews and things. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one, and we'll see how we go in the next reviews. But yeah, the Pelican Blood Double IPA from Apex Brewing Company in Nora, near Örebro in Sweden, just out to the west of Stockholm. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Apex Brewing Company. And as I say, we will return to these guys at some point very soon. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slange, skål, cheers. Make sure you check out Apex Brewing Company from here in Sweden. Slange.